Everything has changed. Every single thing. The head coach is gone. The offensive line has been blown up and rebuilt from scratch. A 60-year-old man who has waited his entire career for this moment is now in charge of one of the most complicated quarterback situations in professional football. And the city of Cleveland, a city that has endured 40 different starting quarterbacks since 1999, a city that has been promised glory and handed heartbreak more times than any fanbase deserves, is being asked once again to believe. But this time? This time, something is genuinely different. The front office has spent money. Real money. The draft has produced real talent. A battle for the starting quarterback job is already underway. And the name at the center of it all, a fifth-round pick who the whole world wrote off just 12 months ago, is taking first-team reps. The Cleveland Browns in 2026 are not the same team. They are not the same organization. And they are coming for everything that was promised to them and never delivered. Buckle up, because the story you are about to hear is the most dramatic franchise transformation Cleveland has seen in a generation. To understand just how stunning the Cleveland Browns 2026 transformation truly is, you have to go back to the wreckage of the 2025 season. Because the numbers from that year tell a story that is almost impossible to believe for a professional football franchise. A franchise that has been in existence for generations. A franchise with Hall of Famers on their roster at various points in history. A franchise that plays in one of the most passionate football cities in America. In 2025, the Cleveland Browns had the worst passing offense in the entire National Football League. Not just bad. Last. Dead last. 45 out of 45 in passer rating. The collective quarterback room, which included first-year starters Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, along with an injured Deshaun Watson sitting on the sidelines, combined for the worst passer rating in the NFL at 71.8. Their passers completed just 58.2% of their passes, which was the lowest completion percentage in the league. They threw touchdowns on just 3.2% of their dropbacks, 30th in the NFL. Their interception rate was 3.5%, the highest in the entire league. And they took sacks on 8.1% of their dropbacks. 45 quarterbacks with 100 or more dropbacks were ranked at the end of the 2025 season by passer rating. Dillon Gabriel was 37th on that list. Shedeur Sanders was 44th. Two rookies. Two men thrown into the fire with absolutely no support. The offensive line, which should have been the foundation of everything, allowed 51 sacks, the seventh most in the entire NFL. The wide receiver core caught a grand total of 4 touchdowns all season. 4. In a 16-game regular season plus a game. Jerry Jeudy, who had a breakout season in 2024 with 90 catches for 1,229 yards, finished 2025 with just 50 catches for 602 yards and 2 touchdowns. The system around him had changed. The blocking hadn't been there. Nothing had worked. The offense ranked last. The offensive line ranked last. The supporting cast ranked last. And the quarterbacks, predictably, inevitably, looked like they were drowning. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, who had been with the Browns since 2020 and who had actually coached the team to a 2020 playoff appearance that generated enormous excitement, was fired. It was a painful decision but a necessary one. The organization had reached the end of a road with a coaching staff that, despite its best efforts, could not find the answer at quarterback and could not build a functioning offense in back-to-back seasons with increasingly desperate roster constructions. And then came the hire that surprised nearly everyone. Todd Monken. Todd Monken is not a household name to casual NFL fans. He is not a former great player. He didn't come with a flashy background as a celebrated defensive mastermind or a Super Bowl champion. What Todd Monken is, what he has been for decades in this profession, is one of the most respected offensive minds in all of football. He turned 60 years old shortly after being hired as the Cleveland Browns' new head coach, and in those 6 decades of life, he had spent most of them proving that he understood how to build winning offenses better than almost anyone else. The first move was a trade. Cleveland worked out a deal with the Houston Texans to acquire right tackle Tytus Howard. The Browns sent a 5th-round pick to Houston, and then immediately signed Howard to a 3-year extension. Howard is a legitimate, experienced NFL starter, exactly the kind of veteran presence that a young, inexperienced offensive line desperately needs. He knows how to play at the NFL level. He knows how to protect quarterbacks. And he knows how to open lanes in the run game. Then came Zion Johnson. The guard out of Boston College was originally a first-round pick of the Los Angeles Chargers in the 2022 NFL Draft, taken 17th overall. A former first-round pick with 4 years of starting experience, Johnson came to Cleveland on a 3-year deal worth $49.5 million with $32.4 million guaranteed. That is a massive financial commitment for a guard, and it sends an unmistakable message: the Browns are not playing around with this offensive line rebuild. They are spending real money on real players. Then Elgton Jenkins. 7 NFL seasons, all with the Green Bay Packers. A former second-round pick who had started 94 of 96 career games. Versatile, experienced, football smart. The kind of veteran player that can line up at center or guard and make the right decisions in the moment that young players simply don't know how to make yet. Jenkins came to Cleveland on a contract that added yet another legitimate piece to an interior line that was being constructed from the ground up. And Quincy Williams, the linebacker from the New York Jets who had been one of the most impactful run-stopping linebackers in the league. Williams added physicality, toughness, and a winning mentality to a defense that was already building momentum. But with all of those free agency moves, as significant as they were, the real statement came in the 2026 NFL Draft. Because it was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the evening of April 23, that Todd Monken and Andrew Berry showed the world exactly who the Cleveland Browns of 2026 were going to be. Cleveland held 2 first-round picks heading into draft night. Pick number 6, which had come from a trade, and pick number 24 from the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 top 25 selections. The football world was watching closely, not just because of the picks themselves, but because of the quarterback room drama that hung over every Browns decision like a thundercloud. Would they take a quarterback with one of those first-rounders? Would they double down on Shedeur Sanders? Would they try to bring in someone entirely new? The answer was none of the above. Holding the number 6 pick, Cleveland made a move that immediately captured the attention of every offensive line analyst in the country. They traded that pick down to the Kansas City Chiefs, receiving picks 9, 74, and 148 in return, and then, at pick 9, selected Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano. 3 years at Utah. 37 career games. An 83.9 overall PFF grade in his final college season, ranking 12th out of 632 tackles in the entire FBS. A player that had been the consensus number 1 offensive lineman in the entire 2026 draft class from the moment evaluators began serious assessments. The first offensive lineman selected in the entire draft. And Cleveland had him all along as their top target, confident enough in his availability at 9 that they were willing to trade back from 6 and pick up extra capital in the process. Todd Monken was jacked, his word, when it all came together. "We were jacked," he said immediately after the pick was announced. "I mean, to be able to move back 3 spots, pick up a 3rd and a 5th, what a great job by General Manager Andrew and get the player we targeted the whole time. We couldn't be any more excited." He then confirmed something that every Cleveland fan had been hoping to hear: Spencer Fano would play left tackle. The left tackle position, the most important blocking position in football, the blindside protector for the quarterback, had been a nightmare for the Browns for years. DeJuan Jones had suffered season-ending leg injuries in 3 consecutive seasons. Katie Leviston, who started 7 games in 2025, had a pass block win rate that ranked 63rd out of 68 qualifying tackles in the league. The blind side was broken. And now it had a fix. Fano immediately mentioned Hall of Famer Joe Thomas, the legendary Browns left tackle who played 10 consecutive seasons without missing a single snap, as one of his favorite players at the position. He told reporters he was super pumped and pumped beyond words to play left tackle in Cleveland. He spoke about protecting the quarterback. He spoke about running the ball. He spoke about being part of something new and something real. And Monken's description of what he saw in Fano told the full story of why this pick was made. His character was first. "I mean, the way he's wired, the expectations that we will have for him won't even match the expectations he has for himself. His athleticism, his toughness. When you want to start off the first year of your regime, you talk about what you want: character, toughness, athleticism. He has it all. That is how you start a new era in Cleveland. But the draft was far from finished. Cleveland still had pick number 24, and the football world was watching to see what direction the organization would take with their second first-round selection. Would they address the quarterback room? Would they target a wide receiver to give whoever wins the QB job an actual weapon? Would they take another lineman and triple down on the trench philosophy? With the 24th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns selected wide receiver Casey Concepcion. Concepcion immediately gives whoever wins the Browns quarterback competition a legitimate receiving weapon, a young, athletic playmaker who complements Jerry Jeudy on the perimeter and gives the offense a different dimension than it had in 2025, when the entire receiving core combined for just 4 touchdowns all season. Combine Concepcion with Jeudy, with young receiver Isaiah Bond, with the improving Cedric Tillman, and suddenly the receiving core that was the worst in the NFL in 2025 has real weapons entering 2026. And the Browns weren't done. Day 2 produced more offensive talent. Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver out of Arizona State, was added to give the offense even more playmaking options. The scene when Tyson was selected was one of the most emotional moments of the entire 3-day event. The young man broke down in tears on camera, his emotions overwhelming him in the moment that his football dreams became professional reality. It was the kind of moment that reminds you, amid all the analysis and the grades and the ESPN segments, that these are human beings whose lives are changing in real time. The Browns used the picks they'd gathered from their trade down with Kansas City to continue building. They added tight end Caden Royer from Cincinnati, a player with excellent size and soft hands who gives Todd Monken's 2 tight end sets another legitimate option alongside Harold Fannin Jr. They added a linebacker to continue reinforcing a defense that is already elite. They added Taylon Green, the quarterback from Arkansas, in the 6th round, continuing to load the quarterback room with developmental options while keeping the Shedeur Sanders vs. Deshaun Watson battle as the main event. The Taylon Green pick deserves its own discussion. Because Green is not a project in the traditional sense of the word. He is a freak athlete, 6 feet 5 inches, 227 pounds, with a record-breaking combined performance for quarterbacks. He can run. He can throw the ball 50-plus yards flat-footed. He finished his 2-year stint at Arkansas throwing for 5,868 yards and 34 touchdowns. And he lands in Cleveland as the 4th quarterback on a roster that already has Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and Dillon Gabriel competing for the starting role. As Andrew Berry himself said, Green has rare physical gifts but needs polish. The Browns are making a long-term bet on his ceiling, and in a room already overflowing with quarterbacks, that bet costs them almost nothing if it doesn't work and could be transformational if it does. And then the UDFA period arrived. And the Cleveland Browns made another move that stopped the football world in its tracks. Spencer Fano, the newly drafted first-round left tackle from Utah, had a brother, Logan Fano, an edge rusher. Also from Utah. Also an athlete. And while Logan was not drafted in any of the 7 rounds, the Browns wasted 0 time in signing him as an undrafted free agent the moment the draft concluded. 2 brothers. Spencer and Logan Fano. Reunited in Cleveland, the city where Spencer had just been selected 9th overall just days before. The elder brother, the franchise left tackle, anchoring the offensive line. The younger brother, the edge rusher, fighting for a defensive roster spot in training camp. It is one of the most heartwarming, most compelling family stories the NFL has produced this offseason, and it is happening in Cleveland. Logan Fano started 11 games for Utah in 2025, recorded 44 total tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and a pass deflection. He is 6 feet 4 inches and 257 pounds with the kind of technique and run-stopping ability that NFL special teams coaches love. His opportunity in Cleveland will begin in camp, fighting for a roster spot. But the story of 2 brothers playing professional football together in the same city, for the same team, is already one of the defining images of the 2026 Cleveland Browns. Now, through all of the offensive line moves, through all of the draft picks, through all of the new faces and the fresh energy in the Todd Monken revolution, there is one story that overshadows every other storyline on this team. One question that the entire NFL is asking. One battle that will define the 2026 Cleveland Browns season before a single regular season snap is played. Who is the quarterback? The Browns enter 2026 with 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Deshaun Watson, returning from an Achilles injury that cost him the entire 2025 season. Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round pick who started 7 games in 2025, went 3-4, made the Pro Bowl on the strength of fan and player voting, and declared himself bulletproof in the most composed postseason interview of any quarterback in recent memory. Dillon Gabriel, the other 2025 rookie who started 6 games and went 1-5. And now Taylon Green, the new developmental addition from the 2026 draft. Deshaun Watson's situation is its own complicated chapter. The last time Watson played football in a regular season game was 2024, and even in that year, before the Achilles injury that ended his season, he was completing 63.4% of his passes for just 5.3 yards per attempt, with a 2.3% touchdown rate and a league-high 13.3% sack rate. Those are not numbers that inspire confidence. Watson was a transformative quarterback in Houston before legal controversies and organizational mismanagement derailed one of the most promising careers of his generation. Now he is attempting a comeback from one of the most brutal injuries in football, a torn Achilles, while the team that has been paying him an historically massive guaranteed contract is clearly, openly, building the offense around the possibility that he may not be the answer. The contract situation is finally reaching its conclusion. Andrew Berry confirmed that 2026 is the final season of Watson's restructured deal. Which means the Browns can get out of the financial disaster cleanly entering 2027, and the question is simply whether Watson can give them anything useful in the meantime. Shedeur Sanders is the other side of the equation, and the far more emotionally compelling one. Here is a young man who was humiliated on a national stage at the 2025 NFL Draft. Who received a prank phone call from someone impersonating an NFL executive while his family watched on television. Who waited through 143 picks before hearing his name called in the 5th round. Who then walked into his new city within days, visited a high school, signed autographs, and told the world he was bulletproof. Who started 7 games behind the worst offensive line in the NFL, went 3-4, threw 7 touchdowns, and was selected to the Pro Bowl by a combination of fan, player, and coach votes that said unambiguously, this kid is special. And now, entering his 2nd season. With a rebuilt offensive line protecting him, with real weapons around him for the first time in his NFL career, with a head coach in Todd Monken who publicly praised Sanders' elite playmaking ability at the NFL Combine, Shedeur Sanders is taking first-team reps. That is not a rumor. That is not social media speculation. Per a report from Cleveland.com, confirmed and widely circulated in the first days of the Browns' voluntary minicamp in late April 2026, Shedeur Sanders has been getting initial first-team reps over both Deshaun Watson and Dillon Gabriel. Todd Monken, when asked directly about what this means and when a decision will be made, answered in the measured, process-oriented language of a man who has been in football long enough to know you don't hand anyone anything in training camp. He is not willing to commit to a starter. He is not setting a deadline. He is creating a genuine, honest competition, and he is watching every single snap with the eye of a man who has spent 60 years learning to evaluate quarterbacks. But the fact that Sanders is taking those first-team reps is significant. It is the organization's silent signal. It is the front office saying, through actions rather than words, that the 5th-round pick who stood on that stage in Green Bay for 3 days and was humiliated by 31 organizations is the one they believe in most. It is the city of Cleveland saying, we see you. We picked you. Now show us what you can do with real support for the first time in your NFL career. The battle that is coming through spring workouts, through training camp, through preseason games is going to be one of the most intensely scrutinized quarterback competitions in the NFL this summer. Every completion matters. Every interception gets dissected. Every read, every footwork decision, every throw into tight windows gets analyzed on social media within seconds of it happening. Shedeur Sanders will need to prove he can do with good protection what he did with bad protection in 2025. The argument for him is undeniable. He went 3-4 as a starter behind an offensive line that PFF ranked dead last in the NFL for the entire season. His wide receivers caught 4 total touchdowns, a collective number that is basically inconceivable at the professional level. And with all of that working against him, he still had moments of genuine brilliance. He still went for 364 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing score against the Titans. He still led the Browns to wins. He still got selected to the Pro Bowl. Now give him Tytus Howard protecting one edge, Spencer Fano protecting the other, Zion Johnson and Elgton Jenkins controlling the interior. A running game built on the backs of Quinshon Judkins, who totaled nearly 1,000 rushing yards as a rookie in 2025, and Dylan Sampson. Real wide receivers. A tight end room that has Harold Fannin Jr., who led the team in receiving in 2025, alongside new additions. And a head coach in Todd Monken who has built championship-caliber offenses everywhere he has been. What happens to Shedeur Sanders with all of that support? The answer could determine not just the 2026 season for Cleveland, it could determine whether the city finally gets the franchise quarterback it has been searching for since 1999. The defense, meanwhile, is already elite. The 2025 Browns were a genuinely good defensive team, and the pieces that made them good are back. Myles Garrett remains one of the most dominant defensive players in the sport. The linebacker core is intact. The secondary, anchored by veterans who understand the system, is experienced and capable. The Browns' defense throughout 2025 showed the ability to keep games close even when the offense was generating almost nothing, and now the offense is going to be dramatically better. The combination of a rebuilt offense and a proven defense under a head coach making his first NFL attempt at 60 years old, fueled by decades of patience and preparation, is the formula that Cleveland is betting on for 2026. And the city is paying attention. Because they have heard promises before. They have seen new coaches walk through that door and declare a new era. They have sat in the stands through 40 different starting quarterbacks. They have felt the specific heartbreak of the almost playoff seasons, the almost franchise quarterbacks, the almost Super Bowl windows that opened and closed before anyone had a chance to climb through. But this time, the optimism is rooted in something tangible. The offensive line overhaul is not a promise. It is Tytus Howard, Zion Johnson, Elgton Jenkins, and Spencer Fano. Those are real players with real credentials. The quarterback in the lead of the competition is not a hope. He is a Pro Bowl selection who declared himself bulletproof and is already taking first-team reps. The head coach is not a gamble on an unproven name. He is a man who built national championship offenses and knows exactly how to run a football team. The 2026 Cleveland Browns are a new squad. They are fresh faces in positions that have been revolving doors for years. And the brutal, beautiful, desperate battle for glory is not coming someday. It has already begun. From the moment Todd Monken walked into that facility. From the moment Andrew Berry made his first offseason phone call to Houston about Tytus Howard. From the moment Spencer Fano cried tears of joy on draft night and named Joe Thomas as his football idol. From the moment Shedeur Sanders, who sat through 143 picks of the worst day of his professional life just 1 year ago, lined up at the front of the quarterback depth chart in voluntary minicamp. Cleveland is not the same. Cleveland is different. And for the first time in a very long time, different feels like it might actually be better. The battle has begun. The new squad has arrived. And the city that has waited the longest, loved the hardest, and lost the most painfully is ready, truly ready, to find out what happens when everything finally comes together. The 2026 Cleveland Browns are here. And they are coming for glory with everything they have. 40 different starting quarterbacks since 1999. A franchise record sack season on defense in 2025. An offensive line destroyed and rebuilt from scratch in a single offseason. A head coach who waited 60 years for this chance. A fifth-round quarterback taking first-team reps who declared himself bulletproof before anyone believed. And a city that never stopped watching, never stopped caring, never stopped hoping. The 2026 Cleveland Browns are a shocker. A new squad. Fresh faces. And a brutal, beautiful battle for the glory this city has earned through decades of patience. Watch closely. Because this story is just beginning. This video is based on publicly available reports, verified news sources, official statistics, team announcements, draft analysis, and ongoing developments as of May 2026. Some information may be subject to change as the 2026 season approaches. This content is created purely for informational and entertainment purposes. We do not intend to defame, harm, or misrepresent any individual, organization, or institution. All statistics and contract figures are sourced from publicly available NFL, PFF, and media records. Viewer discretion is advised.